Welcome to WT3, the podcast that brings founders from 0 to 1. Today we're having Alex Puig with us. Liam, maybe you want to introduce Alex properly.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Alex, it's great to have you here. For anyone who's not met Alex before, Alex is the founder of Context Protocol, co-founder of Data Ventures, was the CTO of Calum Labs, started 2 venture studios. He's known as a public figure in the Spanish blockchain space and active in the space since early 2013. He founded Context Protocol and it revolutionizes data storage and structure. Alex has a long background in emerging technology and brings valuable insights to the industry. We are very lucky to have you, Alex. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you a lot for having me.
No, you're welcome. And just saying before the podcast started, I'm very jealous. You're my favorite city in the world, in Barcelona. I love the Catalonia sort of space. So saying that, like being in Spain, how did you get into the industry, and has it been different to sort of being in other Western countries? I know sort of Portugal is deemed as kind of what the sort of one of the hubs of crypto for a lot of people. And obviously that's just right next door to you.
So I think like Barcelona is an amazing city to live. That's it. So business wise, I would not recommend it. It's not the place to be. But then if you like good food and good wine, definitely it's a place to be. I started in technology, like I started coding at 16. So I've been coding forever, I think. And always like better conferences, like better startups everywhere else, like not just here. So even like if you think about being an entrepreneur tax wise, it's not the perfect, like with everything that's going on in the space, it's not the perfect place to start a company. But it's, as I say, like I don't live in Barcelona. I live like half an hour south of Barcelona, small village by the city, so I can focus on work and do the things that I need to do. And then I don't get distracted by the noise. Probably like noise, it's like one of the worst things ever today, I think. Mm-hmm.
So what do you feel you've had to do to sort of stay at the forefront with that? You're saying you're maybe not in the most ideal place. Yeah. One of the things that people do, obviously, coming from say like TradFi and more like Web2 industries, the sort of the freedom, the kind of digital nomad aspects of blockchain, I think makes it easier to be in the space. But what are some of the challenges you've had from like 2013, and has it got easier?
No, it never goes easy. And the thing is like, this is like a socialist country, Spain, basically. It means that the state usually wants to help you. And that's the most scary thing that can happen to you whenever like some politician company is like, we're going to help you. Every time that they help us, they add regulation. So they have so many really silly regulations here that don't help at all. We cannot have like things like stock options or phantom shares. So there's an exit tax that's really crazy. So if basically, even if you succeed, then going out of the country, it's the tax you have to pay, it's at least a few millions, just like to move your company. And it's the usual when you do an M&A. So that's crazy. And besides that, even like getting funded, it's not the best place. Once again, mentality here, I would say it's small. Remember, like I spoke with a lot of people about that, but usually I have an idea, just go to investors like, okay, give me 100K and I'll give you back 1 billion. So basically in Spain, they say, okay, well, we're going to give you 1K, not 100K. We're going to give you 1K with really this bad valuation. So let's see what happens. If you do exactly the same thing in the States, it's like, okay, if I give you 100K, you're going to give me 1 million, then I give you 1 million and give me back 100 million. It's like, so that's the thing. And second thing, like, it's not really a good country for second opportunities. And things like, if you go to the States, you go to Asia, there are many places that the background, okay, you started a few things, you failed, of course, and then you did it again. That's something amazing. It's like everyone's in school, and he's like, oh, you failed, maybe you're not that good. So these kind of things is like...
So with that in mind, having like started several venture studios yourself, you're talking about sort of this exit tax, kind of feels like you're suggesting you're almost kind of trapped there to a degree, even though you like the lifestyle. But from a business perspective, if you were to start again, where would you start?
That's a good question, because like that's something I've been thinking for a long. I have kids, so it's not that I can really choose that much. I have a complicated situation, But then,
But let's say take all of like current situation out. We've been jumping. We're kind of going to go into sort of later on. We've got our startup desert essentials. But if you were just plump back now, you're 18 years old. You're about to do a startup. You can choose any country in the world.
Probably right now, I would go to Asia, somewhere like probably Korea or Singapore. I think right now, Singapore is the best place to start a business at the moment, because they have like the full good balance between investment, regulation. So that's a good place to be. Probably Asia.
Yeah.
Not even States. I don't like the States anymore. They don't feel safe too much. So probably Asia.
Yeah. Is that even with, so my take on Singapore, I was very bullish on Singapore's kind of adoption of crypto regulations. But the more I read into them, the more I feel like they're moving more towards like that very like centralized controlling CBDC aspect of it. It's all regulated stable coins. And obviously, I'm not saying that everything needs to be the Wild West, but is there not a worry about that part in sort of Singapore and some of the Asian countries that are becoming more, we're saying progressive, but I've got a slight worry about that.
Me too, but that's happening everywhere. Like basically we are in Europe. When I started
yeah.
in blockchain in 2013. Meaning I had to go to the Spanish regulator, Central Bank of Spain, or Central Bank of Europe to speak about blockchain at that time. And then hearing their ideas on CBDCs, like from the beginning. But then for business, like money needs to have stability. So having some sort of regulation, sometimes it can help. Like right now we'll have MiCA in Europe. And even it's not perfect, it's far from perfect.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, at least whenever like I'm launching a project right now, so I know what's the framework that I need to go by, and that helps a lot because like starting any company, there's so many uncertainties that at least being like having this idea that okay, they are not gonna like send me to jail tomorrow. I've been speaking with a lot of founders from the States that they want to come to live to Europe just for that.
Yeah. No, I was about to say the exact same thing. A lot of people. I find it like hilarious almost when I'm talking to people in the US and they're saying how far ahead the EU is with regulations, and I'm thinking, well, like I downloaded the new Strike app because you can finally get Strike in the UK. I had to give them my passport before I could even look to see whether I wanted to use the app, and use a third-party KYC provider that I couldn't verify was actually safe. Which after the Evolve stuff the other day wasn't great. Then I had to answer 8 really difficult questions, which I don't have to answer on reserve banking when I'm opening a bank account and fractional reserve banking. No, we're not getting those questions, but really difficult regulatory questions. And there was about 8 of them. Then after that, once you're finally done with it all and you pass the test, they say, okay, come back tomorrow and we'll let you into the app. And that's UK regulations for you. And people in the US are like, yeah, we'd love that because of exactly what you said. At least you know what you're doing. At least you have a set of guidelines you can follow. The US, they have no guidelines, and it's just enforcement by, regulation by enforcement.
Well, they have guidelines, but they just don't tell you. It's like...
Yeah, this is like the IRS, right? It's like, we're not going to tell you how much money you need to pay, but if you have it wrong, we'll go after you.
And it's funny because like I think like everybody complains about China, but like most of the governments, they want to be like China.
True.
Oh, there was a very interesting. We shouldn't really be. Well, we should because it's crypto world. If anyone listening hasn't listened to the Bankless podcast from this week that had Vitalik on it, I highly recommend it. They were talking about the efficiencies of... Oh, actually, no. Don't watch it. Go to cryptoslate.com and read my article about it, because I wrote about it. About the efficiencies of authoritarian governments and how the internet is actually pushing countries towards that because it's more efficient, and how blockchain could save democracy. Because without it, we're kind of... It's just a natural evolution that liberalism and democracy is kind of going away because it's more efficient to be authoritarian. So it was really fascinating to hear Vitalik's takes on that.
I'm not sure if it's more efficient. The only thing is like probably democracy is overrated. And you guys know a little bit about that in UK. I mean, it's like getting really hard decisions. Really, really hard decisions. It's like, okay, I have like this. I have this operation. So I have to go through the brain. And then instead of like going to the experts to see like what's the best way to get into the brain to do some surgery in your brain, you just ask everyone. It's like, guys, people, what do you think? And
Yeah.
Like, and
I mean,
and
I could divest this. I found it really fascinating talking about like with elections, you spend a lot of time trying to raise money rather than actually governing, and the difference between. And it was like kind of scary. You listen to it, going, "Yeah, there is some logic to this." Like the argument for authoritarianism, but then obviously the downside is a big downside.
yeah. But then I was in China last week, and I was so surprised. Like, for example, you go to Shanghai, and it's an amazing city. It feels like civilization should be at some point. And one of the things, like, they decided that we needed electrical cars. So basically, all of the cars in Shanghai are electrical vehicles, all of them. You don't get it until you're just there, and you are in a city with 20-something million people.
Yeah,
and the silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've seen the videos on that exactly. Well, let's jump into the next part. I mean, we've kind of touched on it already, but just a little bit more in terms of how has your experience with sort of venture studios and tech building changed since 2013? So the last 10 years. What's the biggest change that you've noticed?
But don't get me wrong, but all of them. I mean, I don't understand the concept of expert in anything. Things change so far. Like, I've been building startups for the last 20 years. So my first startup was in 2008, I think. Nothing that I was doing back then, I could do it right now. Everything has changed so fast. So every time you start a company, you need to like be humble enough to understand that you know nothing and you need to start from scratch.
So how do you keep up? Because I think that a lot of people that are, let's say, specifically in the Spanish blockchain space, they, I think, look at you, they're like, oh yeah, Alex, yeah. If you don't know Alex, you don't know anything about blockchain, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how do you keep up to understand, to make sure that you're staying at least in the right lane, because there's so much technology coming out, and I think that's different than, let's say, 10 years ago. But 10 years it was more a niche, obscure industry, where now it's so widespread, right?
So the only way to keep up with that is like fuck experts. I mean,
what does that mean in your
because
brain?
I've seen a lot of people like talking about shit, talking about startups, talking about technology, and I'm just building. I wake up every day at 5 a.m. and try to build something and just do it. I code it.
Yeah.
Then I just keep attached, and then I need things, and then things change, and so I have to read documentation, and I speak a lot with ChatGPT. It's my best friend right now, but
oh, you'll love Liam then.
Yeah, and you have to be stupid. I mean, usually like smart people, every time, like in my life, every time that there was a problem and they ask smart people always like answer, no, that cannot be done. It's impossible. It's going to be too expensive, whatever. And I was the only stupid guy that said, oh, I can do that. So that attitude, that being hunger, that, that's really hard. I want to do it. Let me do it. Sometimes it's like football. There's this guy, like, I don't want the pressure. The other way, I want the ball. I'm going to like go through all of these people with my whatever. So having that attitude, it helps a lot. And not overthinking too much, just like doing. And then I keep up because I wake up at 5 a.m. every day and I build things. I don't read about things. That's
so you build, you deploy, you fail fast.
Exactly. I fail a lot, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the
so by failing you learn, right?
Exactly. And I mean, I've seen like a lot of tech guys like going to management, going to a lot. So and of course they have a lot of experience, but at some point their experience is managing people, but not with technology. And that's a different skill. And by the way, it's really needed. We need a lot of people with that skill. It's not that it's bad. But then, of course, like they have their job and then they need to keep up with technology, and that then it gets hard.
Yeah, it's the old move fast, break things.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we're moving on here to the advice for founders section. I think that's a really great one already, which I would actually entitle kind of "Be Stupid."
Yeah.
Be the dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah, don't overthink. If you think too much, like there's so many things that can go wrong that you will never do anything. Just do it, break it, and then see what happens.
Yeah, it's better to fail 100 times than not to fail at all, right?
But not. But when I like, you ask me like, what do you recommend to entrepreneurs? Don't be entrepreneur. Usually, I do a lot of talks for entrepreneurs, like universities, kind of things. And always when like I ask like, who wants to be entrepreneur? And like all of the room, all of them, like, I want to, me. Yes, amazing. Who wants to get broke? Who wants to get divorced? Who wants to lose their friends? Of course, health. You don't need that. That's something nobody needs, Free time. Wow. And that's it. And honestly, most of the people, they just go low down and whoa. And then you see a couple of people in the back, always in the back, like so excited about, yeah, I want that life. And it's not for everybody. You need to be stupid. Yeah, right. You need to be quite stupid because like you're choosing the hardest path ever. And if you think about it too much, probably you would not do it. Nobody would do it. So
I remember talking to Ross McKenzie, who was one of our guests. He used to do billions of dollars worth of sales for IBM, and his kind of vibe around entrepreneurs is that you have entrepreneurs and you have enthusiastic amateurs, and you're one or the other. And I feel like you can still be what a lot of people will consider an entrepreneur as one of these enthusiastic amateurs. But it's kind of choosing that lane, isn't it? There's the entrepreneur, as you say, that just does the meetings and raises funds. And then you've got the entrepreneur like yourself that moves fast and breaks things and does it themselves. And I think I don't agree with him very much, but I thought this was interesting, is Elon Musk was recently talking about the fact that we need more engineers as CEOs, more people that can actually do things. Is that something you'd agree with?
For me, the difference is between, I see that a lot with entrepreneurs. I don't think of myself as an entrepreneur because I have an idea in my mind. I want to see that idea working. So I don't care. I just like have something with like context protocol. I thought about this, like the semantic web. We can bring that on Web3, and I want to see that working. And then I see a lot of entrepreneurs that they're looking for the idea because their idea of being entrepreneur is to build something big, to get rich, whatever. And then, yes, they get excited about raising money, and they celebrate raising money. Raising money is a big responsibility. You should never celebrate that because you owe that money to someone. And they get lost on this idea of, beautiful idea that you're free, you do whatever you want, you're an entrepreneur, and you want to be an entrepreneur. I think like most of the, OGs or whatever you want to call them, they don't think of themselves as entrepreneurs. They just do things. And it's not that I'm looking for the next big thing to do. I just see a problem and I need to solve that problem. And I'm not looking for the problem. I just, that I could do better. And then I get obsessed with that. So I think that there's like these two paths. And I like this idea of amateur somehow. Because I've seen that a lot. Like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna join a university to do a course on entrepreneurship. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think it's being humble, isn't it? It's the aspect of knowing that there's lots that you don't know yet, and you can always learn.
But then that's once again like what you're doing something. You fail so many times that it's impossible not being humble, because you fail. Because you're stupid. You just try things, and then of course you fail, and you try again, and you fail again, and then you speak with a lot of people, and because you want that to succeed, you speak with smarter people than you. You never speak to people that says, no, you're right. You don't like that kind of people. I don't like them. I like people saying you're wrong because that's not going to work because of this. Oh shit, that's a good idea. So, and then because you're speaking all the time with people that they know better than you. And whenever you hire, I always hire people to tell me what to do, not the other way around. If I hire someone in marketing, I want him or her to be way better than me. And so, and then of course you work with this kind of people that makes you feel humble all of the time because there's so many things you don't know. I used to say that knowledge is like a balloon, that there's like the things you know inside of the balloon, it's the air. And then the things you don't know are outside. And basically, you just know the things you don't know, but you don't know the things you don't know. And the more you get more knowledge inside, the surface, the area of the balloon grows. And the things that you get to know that you don't know, they keep on growing exponentially. So every time that you just like get some air of knowledge, the kind of it's like, yes, now I know this. Now I know that I know do this. And it gets great.
Exactly.
So then once again, like Thomas, you have to be stupid and don't overthink too much. You're never going to be smart enough. You're never going to get there. So you just keep on pushing and trying. Otherwise, like, if you wait for everything to be perfect, you will never do that. It's like the perfection is the opposite of done, I think they say. So
yeah, that's that.
No, I wanted to jump on. So, in terms of another tip here, you talk about failing a lot. How do you deal with failure?
Because, like, I don't know. It's part of my life. I don't think failure is a bad thing. Some would say, like, I never fail. I just found 1,000 ways of not doing it right.
No, but in terms of if you were talking to someone that's just starting out and you need to say that you're going to fail lots, what would be the advice of how to deal with that failure, knowing that it's going to come a lot?
So my advice would be being able to identify failure on different topics. It's not the same feeling that I tried something, it didn't work, or I tried something and I lost $200,000, or I tried something, it didn't work, lost $200,000, and I now own that money to a bank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So being able to identify this kind of failure, being able to identify the risk on everything you do, and manage that risk in a way that it's like calculated risk. I mean, I'm going to fail big, but then I can, raise up again because I'm okay. I never lost my, health or never lost my, wealth. So it's not that basically that's the end of it. So being able to identify those risks, like at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur is like about cash management. You need like cash flow, being able to understand like where you are, what do you want to be. And then with that, make a lot of mistakes. And of course, you're going to lose a lot of money at the beginning because you're going to make a lot of bad decisions. You're going to hire the wrong people. You're going to, but then you learn.
So I like that perspective. But then if we talk, let's say, about future proofing, right? Like, let's say we build I think context is a very good example. So, you're building something that you hope will scale over time. So how do you ensure that your build future-proof technology that is and flexible and can, I think, add value to what you do within the boundaries of failing, right? Because you will still fail often and fast, but how do you ensure that you future-proof your failures?
It's really hard because you cannot predict most of the things. You cannot predict them. You can choose a chain that maybe like it just comes in a couple of months or gets hacked, or there's so many things that they're not up to you. It's not your failure. Of course, you fail because you choose something, but it's not your fault. You, as an entrepreneur, I think you never have enough information about like everything you're doing. But then on the engineering side, yes, then I plan everything that's modular. I never trust just one technology. So if I need to connect to a blockchain, I just do it modular in a way that, okay, this blockchain didn't work. And then how long it takes to connect a new blockchain? 5 minutes. So
that's actually what...
Yeah, technical debt. Just think about that, like, because we don't know. So that's like every time we're using Arweave. Amazing. What if Arweave doesn't work? Then, okay, you're right. So then we can connect Filecoin or whatever and think about that. But that's the good thing. You fail so many times that you already know that things fail. So you're prepared for that. Your mindset changes because it's not failure. It's just like, no, evolution.
But this is a very important thing for our listeners. And that's why, we kind of you just bundle three advices into one. But most of our listeners, some of our listeners are like maybe veterans in Web2, but go to Web3. And Web3 works definitely a little bit different when it comes to development and looking at technology. But also like just first-time founders in the Web3 space. I think you said something that's really important here. It's like, because one of the questions, like, hey, choosing the right tech stack is like, well, make it modular, right? Make sure that you can switch out things left and right. Don't make it dependable, because if you do, if you make it monolithic, and it turns out that whatever you build on or whatever third party decides to stop, you're in big bad trouble, right? So it doesn't matter what the right tech stack in terms of technology is. It matters on how you build it from an architecture perspective, where you're able to remove things if they are a risk or becoming a risk in the future. Like, for instance, any chain you're building on.
You need to have a plan B and plan C for everything. It's like, okay, what happens if I get hacked? No. What happens when you get hacked? Because probably that's going to happen. It doesn't matter if you're really good or bad. So your ability to plan in the future and then plan for that. Plan that I'm going to fail. I know that for sure. So then whenever you fail, you're prepared. You're right. It's like you knew that. I knew that. Of course, it hurts. But then it's like you get strong and just move forward. And by the way, lately with Web3, most of the times, it's not about technology. Nobody cares. It's like more business decision. Like whenever we choose which blockchain we want to deploy. Right now, we're choosing the blockchain we want to deploy for mainnet. And it's a business decision. It's like who's going to bring more users, partners. So more on the business side. Right now, it's more important than actually the tech side. And if the tech side is modular and it's ready, and I'm really obsessed with testing. So all of my software, it's always like, it has like, unit tests for everything. So then if I change the module, I just pass all of the tests and I'm ready to go.
This is, I think, a very... Sorry, go ahead, Dean.
No, I was just going to say, and I think with the rise, you were talking about ChatGPT earlier, we've seen how good Claude 3.5 Sonnet is at coding. I think it's only going to get easier to transpose code to another platform as well as AI gets better.
Completely. But then if you plan for that from the beginning, then that's fine.
Yeah, and that's that future-proofing piece, right? Like making sure that you can bring in new technologies. It's not about, and this is always the interesting thing, because like we talk a lot to our clients, and they're like, yeah, we love Avalanche, we want to build on Avalanche, and we're like, okay, what are you going to build? And then they come with this idea, and we're like, well, there's better chains out there that can do this on technology perspective, and also there's better chains out there that can do this on business perspective. And it's very often where clients kind of get married to a certain technology. Oh, we love TypeScript. It's like, yeah, but nobody cares about it. Your end users don't care about it. Like your end user doesn't care on the block which chain you are, unless when it comes to bringing more users in. Yeah, then it makes sense. But if you're a maxi on any technology, it doesn't. I think it's a really big risk towards future, but also towards like what you're building, because you're building exclusively for one chain. And whatever happens to that chain, you can't influence, right? If that breaks down, you're done.
But not just blockchain, any technology. Me as a coder, I can code in I've been coding like forever. I can code in anything, I don't care. And honestly, like one of my favorite languages is Rust, because I come from working with machine code. So I've been like coding at low level and I love that. But then business-wise, it makes no sense. Like hiring people with experience in Rust, that's really hard. So, and then you can find a lot of people maybe with TypeScript, JavaScript, or Go. So that's a business decision. Once again, like you cannot get in love with the technology. It doesn't help. And then you need to plan that technology that you're just building right now, it's an MVP, maybe whatever, it will change. Like me, myself, I built most of the tech stack we have, but we just recently had the CTO. And now he's taking all of the decisions because he's the CTO. No matter if like I have a lot of experience in the technology, it's up to him to decide. And probably he will be changing things. And then probably we'll have someone else and we will keep on evolving. If you don't plan for evolution, you will end up like I was working for a bank and this bank, they never plan for that. So most of the banks, they don't. So at some point, 70% of the code was older than 25 years.
Yeah, and that's more common than people actually think. It's very, very common. Yeah.
It means that basically changing a couple of lines of code, whatever it is, it's like around 2 days to change, like even a copy. 2 days, and it's the budget of 2,000 euros to change. And it gets crazy.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure there's still some ATMs in the UK running on Windows 98.
Oh, 100%.
Probably.
That's not even a joke. Like genuinely, there are. Talking about testing, you talked about unit testing a moment ago. How do you product test your proof of concept?
I at the beginning, like my background, I was working for a startup called Softonic. So basically, we had around 50 million users, and at that time, if something was wrong, the code we were making as a team, but for every 5 minutes, we were losing $5,000. So we were everything was like it needed to be smooth. It was crazy and the kind of responsibility. So that's my background. So at the beginning, when I started as an entrepreneur, I was like creating code that could handle millions of petitions, and I had 5 users. So learn a lot about that to fake everything at the beginning. So it's I call it like the chopping process. Then I have this idea and what I need to build, and then I keep on chopping and chopping and chopping. And then I talk a lot like with my team or even my wife, like she has a lot of experience there. And what are you going to build? I'm going to build this. You don't need this. You don't need this. Chop that, chop that. And you get to the core of what you're building and then just try that. See if people use that. So being able to chop, but then once like you chop, you have everything first, like I do the tests always. Like, I don't know why most of the people, they think that you lose more time writing the test than the code. Usually I first write the test and then I do the code. And then from there, evolving, it's really hard. It's really easy. And then you move faster. You make a lot of time for yourself and security, of course. But chopping with an axe, like everything I can from the beginning, everything, even something it's like can be manual, I can do it manual. So I will receive an email and then I will set up in the backend. Don't, of course, like at the beginning, even like admin tools, whatever, don't do that. Just
keep it simple.
Keep it simple, core business, make it work. And once again, it's like, it's a good problem to have, needing to scale running. So you're going to do that.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, probably I would spend more time on UX than on like my technology being able to scale. Like, you know,
so again, fail fast.
Yeah, fail fast. Yeah. But then, because it's easier to, you know, build software for me, it's easier than explaining whatever I'm building to people. So building the narrative, being able to explain that in a way that people, the users, they just come to your place and they naturally know what they have to do. That's the hardest part ever.
So let me ask you a question regarding, because like I have had so many discussions regarding POCs and MVPs, right? And we always said, look, POCs are just a piece of software that demonstrates that what we're building works. And, you know, there's a very simple user flow, right? An MVP, we always say, look, MVP is something that you can deploy onto the market. It has generally one happy path for the user, and you can get paying customers, right? Like that's skill from there. And very often we see like, yeah, no, but a POC needs to be able to, you know, onboard users and do all these crazy things. It's like,
can be
no,
a Figma. Sometimes we've been doing POCs and showing the POC in a Figma without even coding the backend.
Yeah, just clickable Figmas. Yeah. This is how it's going to look like. This is what it will represent. Hey, is this something you like? And I think very often in Web 2, we've seen it a lot by Web 3 as well. Like people confuse that concept, right? So they talk about POCs, like no, what you're talking about is an MVP. An MVP is obviously more work, takes more time, takes more man hours. There's more risk involved. Have you done the POC step? Because I think that's a very valuable point to just at least like market test or back test your ideas and your perspectives. Hey, do people actually like this? Does this actually make sense? If you do that with an MVP, you're going to probably spend a lot of time and money and effort for something that may not be a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, right? Like,
and in Web3, it's even worse, because when you do an MVP in Web3, there's a lot of things you need to take into account, as you can imagine, like, of course, security, transactions. It's not that easy. So,
no.
But then an MVP, you can just like play with that. And then, of course, you can move faster than when you have like, if you know what you want to build, it's faster to build an MVP. But honestly, when you have an idea, you don't know what you're building.
Yeah. I'd say, but we had a conversation yesterday with some of our partners that are doing a lot of go-to-market and ideation. Like they start with ideation stage, and the amount of clients that we start with, and they're like, oh yeah, we have a really great solution. Okay, what's the problem that it solves? And they're starting actually back. It's like, okay, what are the problems? And you can't name the solutions as a problem. And they realize that 80% of the time they build something, there's no value. But in their head there is, because it's a great idea. It's another wallet on chain X, which does 5 things different. It's like, who's going to be your users? Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe that should be the other way around.
Me too. I see that a lot with a lot of entrepreneurs, that they just come to me, I have this crazy idea and nobody's doing that. Maybe there's a reason for that. Nobody's doing that.
That's a very, very good point. There's sometimes a reason why people don't do it. There's a reason why some of the industries can't be disrupted, because disrupting it is going to cost you $100 billion and a lot of traction. And it's not. When people talk about disruption, it's often a very small piece of an industry that has a niche, and of that niche, you do a disruption, and that's the disruption of that piece of industry. You don't disrupt the whole industry.
But then, like, I think like people is confused with that. It's like startups are in war with corporates, something like that. And honestly, I've always been in the nowhere land, in the middle ground, like me myself, because I'm a coder. So basically, I work with the community, but then I work a lot with the big corporates. And then for the corporates, I'm the hacker, the geek guy, hacker, straight guy. But then for the hackers that I work with, I code with, then they look at me as like, you're the corporate guy because you speak with these guys. The truth is, like, by far technology made by the community, open source and hackers, is way better.
Yeah.
But then if you want to have impact, the guys from the corporate, they know a bit about that. So you need to listen to them. And sometimes you use crazy idea nobody did and the corporate is not doing. You talk to the corporate and maybe in 5 minutes, it's like just 5-minute interview with the corporate. They will tell you why they are not doing that. It's like, because we try that. People don't want that. It's like, it's as simple as that. We try that. They don't want it. So being able to work, it's not a word, cooperation, like talk to corporates sometimes and ask them why there's no solution like that. And they're going to tell you why sometimes. And it's going to hurt once again.
Yeah. But that's a very good perspective, definitely in Web3. So I wanted to we had another one, and that's interesting because AI has been a hot topic for the last 2 years, right? Like specifically LLMs. How do you see the whole AI narrative playing into the Web3 technologies? Like Liam and myself had a couple of really hot discussions about this on how where AI sits and where it goes, and if AI at this point is not Web3. How do you see this whole AI narrative? And then we're not necessarily talking about the coding structure, but the general LLM vision and perspective. How do you see that play into the Web3 technologies?
And that's a discussion that I've had a lot too. And I've been really, like, as you can imagine, I'm really into AI, doing it, using it for my work in many different ways, and coding, LLM, and LangChain, and all of these things. And I'm really scared a lot. I mean, it's about, training LLMs at the end of the day. It's about training AI. So the way we train AIs will be probably, in science fiction, there's 3 paths that AI can take. One is that basically it's good, it helps us, it improves lives, everybody's happy. Second, it's bad, it kills us all, nobody's happy. Third is like AI sees us as ants, so it ignores us completely, and as long as we don't get in the way, that's gonna be. So 3 paths, and depends on the way we train AI. Right now, it's gonna be like probably the path we are gonna take. So the responsibility we have right now as a society to train AI in a way that information can be trusted, because it's not that easy. If you think, like, you just look at internet, it's crazy, like a lot of fake information. So if we use all this fake information, false, lies, whatever, everybody is like creating conflict just to get more power. So if we use that information to train AI, we are doomed. So we have a responsibility to find a way to, in a collaborative way, I'm not going to say democratic way, collaborative way, train AI. And also in a way that all of the different algorithms are open source and we can check them. Maybe then we have a chance to do something good. And then it's not really Web3, I would say decentralized, in the sense that if we have an open source decentralized way of training and verifying what AI is doing, maybe we have a chance. If we give that power to just governments like Europe, they're going to regulate, but then they are really so afraid of everything, so they're going to create some crazy regulation, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Or even companies. So
what are your thoughts on BitTensor then?
What do you mean?
You aware of BitTensor?
Yeah.
Because I mean, their goal with their subnets is to allow the decentralized training of AI models. So is that something you think is moving in the right direction?
Yes, exactly. Completely. In fact, like Context Protocol, we started as like, a company, so everybody can have self-sorting data for everyone. So all of your public data, instead of being owned by LinkedIn, Microsoft, whatever, it's like owned by you, and then you decide whether to change it or whatever. But then we have a way to verify that. And then lately we've been working a lot on integrating all of this data into AI as a community. So the way AI is as a community. And I think that's the real way to go. So it's about governance. It's about that data governance. It's about being able to challenge any information in a way that's reasonable. So
I couldn't agree more. I think things like what Context is doing are just absolutely critical, because we need those. I mean, there's other AI projects as well, and I think that competition is what we need as well to drive the whole community forward in the right way. But yeah, being able to know around AI origination and AI training, where the data's come from, whether you can trust it or not, these are some of the biggest problems that we actually have, and they're not the ones that are most talked about.
In fact, because we have this name service, you can get your domain, whatever. One of the first decisions we made is we didn't want to sell the domains. I don't want you just because you can pay for that, you can get a name, because then you lose all of this credibility you need to have. But then by putting the data on Web3 storage, like Arweave or Filecoin, it doesn't matter. But then you have traceability. It's like a lot of data linked to a domain that can be trusted and verified. So you can create all of the chain of not just traceability, but accountability on data.
Yeah.
You cannot make up things. They are on the block.
Yep.
So for me, it's really important that basically Web3 and AI, they work together in that. Otherwise, honestly, like I've seen so many crazy things lately. And of course, there's a lot of inequality in society, but then with AI, it's gonna even get worse. Like
you're gonna have data inequality.
Yeah, people think about basic income, so everybody gets paid. That's fine. But maybe we need to start talking about basic computation income, something like that. So you have your own amount of computation you can use in AI to advance in your career, maybe. Because right now it's not money. Like anybody I have a really amazing computer that I just bought just for that. So I have a competitive advantage against anyone that doesn't have this kind of computing, because like I can train it, I can configure it, it does everything. I have agents, so it's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that universal basic computing. That's brilliant.
I read the book. It's not mine. But I thought like, wow, I was thinking this makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about a lot of really complex things there. When you are either running a business or starting up, if you don't have the knowledge to, say, write in LangChain or to understand different blockchains, I know your perspective is that you like to just learn and use AI. Do you suggest that that's what other people do to get their team to upskill? Or do you think outsourcing for that role makes more sense?
Both. Honestly, like, for me, usually I get a core team with the core knowledge of the business, but then there's a lot of things like DevOps or even like the website. There's a lot of things that probably once you know what you want to do, they don't add that much value. Mm-hmm. So having like I've been in different startups, and some of them they wanted to do everything on their own. I was in one startup. We started 20 people. When I left, we were more than 200 people. But then I felt that we could do the same. Like with 20, we were like creating as much software as with 200 almost. So so I would say like keep your core business inside, outsource everything else, everything that you can outsource, because it's not vital to your business model. Just if you can do it, otherwise like teams they get really big and then you become like really inefficient.
Fantastic.
So I just wanna ask something about that, because like you have a big tech background, right? Like how is that for non-technical founders? Because bringing in knowledge in-house also means that you need to vet like your CTO or your first 3-4 devs. That's hard if you're having not technical experience.
Yeah, you need someone. I think like I've seen like in the venture studio we launched different startups. Some of them they never got a CTO at the beginning as it was not that important, and they had the hardest time by not having someone at least, because even if I outsource technology, I need to have someone that understands how to outsource technologies. I cannot outsource technology because I know what I want. So I tell you, Thomas, I need this. This is the way I want it. And maybe sometimes they're going to tell me, no, this is going to take 2 weeks. And it's not, that's 2 days and you know that. So that kind of experience helps a lot. And I think you need that. And for me, like, there was a question like I think you made me like something really important is like my first sale. Every time I start a company, I do a startup, the first sale is your team. And going from this proof of concept to an MVP, you need I think for the MVP, you need a CTO. So the proof of concept will help you sell to the CTO.
Fair. Yeah, you need something from a business direction. I think a POC can help with that, right?
Exactly.
Like it can visualize. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
But then with that, you can sell to your team, and you don't need a big team, but I think management, organization, and finance and technology, it's not that much. But I always recommend having someone with experience. And I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion. Don't hire young people.
Don't hire young people.
No, hire young people.
Okay, so like, why?
First, of course, like lack of experience.
Fair.
They're not that humble. Of course, we've all been young and we were not humble as we are right now. So because you have not filled up, and you need to feel a lot to be humble. And drama, sometimes like everything, it's a big drama for them. Young people is like, because everything is about them. And senior people usually like, I think we're stronger in that sense.
So you would argue, but that I assume that's for your core team, right? Like I assume,
Core team, always like core team.
Yeah. If you build out your team, you can probably add junior developers or mid developers in there. Just for your core team, you want stable.
Not at the beginning, because like if you hire, there's a lot of really good junior people, but with that it means that you need to tell them what to do, and to help them and to teach them. That's a lot of time you don't have.
Yeah.
So having really young people with no experience means that you're going to spend a lot of your time that you have to be raising, marketing, doing a lot of stuff. Telling this guy, no, this is a loop. This is how you look. No, this is not going to work because like wallets work like that. So things that for me, they're really basic. So
if I would flip it around, I would say like, okay, because there's a lot of these technical young startup founders, right? Like we see them a lot when we work with accelerators, and these guys are like between 20 and 25, maybe coded for a couple of years. So what would you advise them? Because they're generally like, young, eager, relatively technical, I would say. So find an older, more experienced person in your team that is more on the business side, or actually more on the tech side, or both maybe.
Both, because that can help a lot. And honestly, I've seen people like that, 25, 24, and they're really good on the tech side.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh no, I'm the CTO because I'm the best tech guy ever. And first, you're not. And second, being a CTO, it's not about knowing technology. It's about managing a team.
Yeah.
And managing providers and being able to choose the best provider for what you do. Whatever it's like, cloud or whatever.
Yeah.
Outsourcing, being able to find the right team to outsource. And that's a lot of things that they have nothing to see with technology. It's about experience. It's about, how you can handle and manage people. Usually, me, myself, I'm really good at the beginning because I charge with everything and just move forward. But then I don't like much managing people. So that's why I have a CTO who's better than me at managing people.
Yeah. So you can focus on building. Yeah.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that. It made me realize something. So when I first started my second business, we got our biggest contract, which was like a huge government website project, and it needs to be built on Umbraco, and we were like WordPress guys. We had no idea about Umbraco in the slightest. Most of our developers were PHP or JavaScript. So we won the contract anyway, because we knew we could bring someone in to do the back end part. And we hired a guy that was about 10 years older than all of us, because we were all in our kind of early to mid 20s. And having him on board, he helped us realize, like we were saying earlier, the stuff we didn't know. Yeah. And also what stuff we thought we didn't know that we didn't need to know, that we thought we needed to learn. Like we thought there were so many things we were missing. Like, we need to learn this, we need to do this. And he's like, no. All that stuff's bullshit. Ignore all that. You don't need that. This is what we need to focus on. Because we had a lot of imposter syndrome. So then when you've got imposter syndrome, you feel like you need to build everything perfectly. And he was able to point out the parts where, as you grow up, you know that quite a lot of stuff, as you were saying, like it might be fine to build a situation, have an email come through and do it manually. Like we were always thinking you had to build everything automated and perfect the first time. He's like, nah. I was seeing him build web forms and like, you can't really, that's not the way you do it. You've got like 20 years of experience. It's like, yeah, that's the way I do it. And it's the right way. And I'm like, oh, it learned so much. So I do agree. Getting someone older than you in a core team can help you learn stuff you didn't even realize you needed to learn.
Yeah.
But that means that you want to listen. That's not always the case with young people.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's another tip for young founders. Listen to your elders.
Well, get someone with experience there, someone you can talk to at some point. I usually, for startups, I call it the beer guy. It's someone that at some point they can call me and we can have a beer. And because sometimes it's like, it's not that they're doing it wrong. It's just that they need to understand that is it that hard? Yeah. So having someone to talk to with experience that went through that before you. When I say like, you're entrepreneur, you're losing your friends. It's not that you're losing your friends. It's that basically your area of interest is changing a lot. And the things that moves you are really a million miles away from whatever moves your friends.
Yeah.
So they will be speaking probably about their wives, their kids, or not even their jobs. They don't care that much about that, but about football or whatever. And then you're thinking about the next bull market because like there's a new startup. And then you talk to them and it's worrying because like you have so many things in common that it gets crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So having someone you can speak about all of these things that went through before you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they were amazing tips. So in terms of that segment, I think there were some amazing tips there. Things that has really helped me resonate with, even looking back to my career, things that I've realized that I've learned those things and I haven't realized that I'd even learned them. So that was really fascinating. Thomas, what do you want to do about the next section, time-wise?
Yeah, let's we have our brainstorms, and I think it's I mean, some of this stuff we already spoke about, Alex, like, you know, cover custom development versus leveraging existing solutions, but also evaluating blockchain technologies. I think for our listeners, that might be a very interesting piece, like, you know, signals on from a builder perspective when is something is overhyped or underhyped. And we already talked a little bit about continuous learning. So, you know, keep on failing upwards, basically. But maybe we can touch actually upon the how do you evaluate you know, over like blockchain technology on where you want to build on? Is like, do you have a specific format that you look, oh, there's a new chain coming out, like, you know, every day, right? There's some old school like chains that have been out there for a long time, like Algorand, for instance, right? Like, so it's been there for a good long time. There's also like a SUI that's been coming out. There's a bunch of layer zeros. There's now ZKs, roll-ups. Like, there is so much stuff coming out. For you as a builder, how do you evaluate that? How do you look at these technologies and say, like, hey, this makes sense for what I'm going to do, this doesn't? Has that a lot to do with they have already users, they have good documentation, they have an APK? Like, how do you evaluate that?
It's Web3. Nobody has good documentation, I guess.
I was waiting for that one. Yes, it's terrible.
It's always terrible. Usually, yeah. I just I try to talk to BD or even like marketing teams to evaluate the community they have and if they can help or not. And like talking I try to talk to other teams building on top of that technology, because then you get a lot of surprises. They basically some of these even layer ones, layer two, even some of them they're really new. They act as a corporate in the sense that basically they don't help at all. If you have any problem, nothing happens. So going to these like public channels where basically you have, I want to be sure that if I have a problem, I can talk to the core guy that's coding that.
Yeah.
And if we want to do anything, we want to have BD helping us out, or, you know. So for me, once again, like, it's not that much about technology. Yeah, I think like EVM, it's really convenient because like there's not enough blockchain developers, but at least like there's enough developers that they know about like EVM compatible kind of technology. Yeah. But right now it's EVM compatible. The rest, whatever it happens, it's not that important. If it's like slower blocks or fastest block, I don't care. I'm going to do something that I call like optimistic UX. Basically, every time I send a transaction, I just think that's going to go through. So the message to the user is like, it went perfect. Yeah. It went smoothly, and so I can handle that, and then I can retry, and then I will take care of everything. So time block, it's not that important, but yeah, like the cost, it's important. And also now, like for example, for us, like if we want to evolve in the future, you need to be sure that, for example, like I can launch an MVP with a set of smart contracts, but if we want to have our own L3 in the future, and for us, for example, it makes sense, I want to make sure that I can do that. So that a good technology that you can scale.
But that's not an easy ask for a first time founder, right? They're like, look, build your architecture out in the most like modular, crazy way, so that whatever happens, you're like, there's not many people in this space that I know of that can do that, right? And because it's really hard. It's like, you know, you're preparing for what you don't know. So build as modular as you can. Don't trust any chain you're building on, because that might change as they go. Generally, that will be better, but chains can go dead, right? Like there's not enough traction. That's a really hard
It is, but because you don't know, that's why probably focus on business.
Yeah.
Because business, at least you will get enough investors, then you can sell to a CTO and have someone with experience that can with that. So at the beginning, because you don't know, and there's no way you can like have all of that information. So
no, I tend to agree. I think if you, and that it always kind of goes back, because we are, of course, in this industry for a long time, we have a big bias about technology around it. Most of our end users don't care. They really don't care where this.
None of them, Thomas. Nobody cares.
None of them. No.
What we do needs to be perfect, but nobody cares.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's an important piece. But it needs to work, and it's like we always recently have been comparing it to the cloud, right? Like, you know, Azure and AWS. I'm like, do you care where your data is? Do you care how the cloud works? No, I don't care how the cloud works, but it works, right? It works. Okay, that's great. So now, if you're gonna advertise your new platform, new whatever, you're gonna say, yeah, and we're using AWS. Like, do you think people are gonna buy that? Like, they don't care.
Yeah.
They really don't care. They care that it works, and they care that it will stay working, and that it's secure and it's safe, and it will get better and better. So that's an important thing. But they don't care about what technology you use in the backend. Like,
then with the right CTO, you know that you're gonna start with AWS and it's gonna be cheap, but then in time, if you need to grow a lot, that's gonna be really crazy expensive. So you need that kind of experience. That's why, like, first, like, build something. You can launch the testnet anywhere. Nobody cares. If it's modular enough, you can choose later, and then get a proper CTO to help you with that.
So kids, it's less about technology. It's more about business.
Always. It's about money. You need money to do everything. So you need to convince people to give you time or money.
I fully agree. Liam, you have anything to add here?
No, absolutely fantastic.
It's just like, it's interesting, Alex, because you and I have spoken about this so many times last year in East Denver as well, where there's so much technology, so much noise out there. And it's really, really hard to distinguish it if you're not in this industry or in development for at least a while, right? Like, you'll just move with the waves otherwise. And I think that, like, you're one of the people that I always really appreciate on your opinion on this, because you generally always said, like, well, I call bullshit on probably almost everything. And I think that's a really good perspective, because I think not enough people do this, right? Like, there's just too much echoing going on. It's like, no, but this new technology piece, or this new ZK rollup, or this new, yeah, okay, but who's going to use it, right? And who cares? Who really cares about this technology?
But think about that, like, new technology, ZK rollups, they're amazing. The thing is, like, the guys that they started with optimistic rollups, they launched earlier, they have technology that works.
Yeah.
And now that they know, eventually, they're going to migrate to ZK rollups. But they already have the market. They just, like, did the business side. So now they have, like, for example, Arbitrum, really huge community. A lot of people building on top of that. Nobody cares if it's optimistic rollups or ZK rollups.
Yeah.
And I do believe ZK rollups are better technology, but at the end of the day, this is about the business.
Sometimes it's not the best technology that wins, but the biggest adoption, right?
Always. No, sometimes I think that's always the case. So, but if you see that right now, there's like Optimism, Arbitrum, all of them, they're doing really great, better than most of the ZK rollup technologies. Because, like, if you try to code, I tried with Startnet, Aleo, and I love those technologies, by the way. They're really they're some of the best pieces of tech I've ever seen. But of course, you need to understand Kaido. So basically, coding in Kaido, it's fun. Or coding with Leo. Even they're really good languages, but there's so many things you need to learn before doing that. So focusing on the business side, I think that's what makes a lot of sense, basically, right now.
That's probably the best advice that is being, like, it's consistently, by the way, being given throughout, I think, all the episodes that we've been shooting over the last 2-3 months. People always say, like, technology is great, make sure it works. Focus on the business, make sure you get your end users, make sure it makes sense, retain your users, like, build features that make sense. And now, don't build stuff that you think is great. Might be great, but backtest the hell out of it, because if you don't,
and someone with experience, probably me myself, I've over-engineered so many times in my life. But and you think about it, it's like the amount of money I spent on salaries or whatever, that basically on things nobody used.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So just because I over-engineered, I did like an amazing technology that could handle like millions of petitions, and I had 5. So
yeah, this is an issue that we've seen consistently in with Intersect as well, and before that in our previous companies. People come in and they have like these crazy cool ideas, and they are cool. They're really leveraging interesting strategies and customer retention and everything like that. It's like, that's great. You want to build an MVP, that's also great. And we have these 20 happy paths of users. I'm like, whoa, why 20? Do 2. It's like, no, because without the other 18, it's not a full product. It's like, no, that's you got to refine your happy paths. Like, what's the top 3? These 5, no. What is the top 3? These 4, no. What is the top 3? And it's really hard if you can't get there because like you think all your stuff is great, you're doing something wrong. And we've seen people throwing away money at that. We're like, don't do this. Just launch. Just get your shit out of the door. Backtest it. If it doesn't work, we'll add something new to it. But make sure you get that market feedback, because if you're not, you just spend a ton of money on nothing.
That's, Thomas, probably the worst, like the most difficult thing to do. I mean, imagine like a pitch deck. I need to explain my technology, and I have 1 hour. I will do a great job.
Yeah.
And then I have 30 minutes. Okay, it's not going to be that easy, but I can explain my technology in 30 minutes. But then suddenly I have 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, exactly, I cannot explain everything. I just need to focus on.
But it means that you got to be very critical on what comes in and what goes out. That again, I think falls back on experience, like understanding what is important and then still test it out. Like, talk to people, just throw it out in the wild, see if people are willing to pay money for it, for instance, right? Like, and once again, like we've seen people just coming with big budgets, like, they raised $5+ million and they're like, oh yeah, our MVP is going to be $1 million+. I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. No, but we really want to build it. It's like, okay, well, we'll advise you all the way, but this is a really bad idea. And then it turns out it's not a good idea. Like, there's, you pivot. They pivot as they go, and that's why they still survive. But we've seen people, and that goes for all places. I think all emerging tech spaces, that you spend too much money on building something great that doesn't get users. So just
first
throw it out.
Spend money on acquiring users.
Yeah.
Or go where the users are. That's why like when you choose like which blockchain, talk to the users, look for your community.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So Alex, like you talk a lot about building stuff from scratch, custom development. Are there solutions, like, are you leveraging existing solutions, and how are you looking at those? Like, is that a calculated guess or a calculated risk that you're taking? Or you say, well, most of the things that we do or that you should do should probably be custom?
No, I try to use as many pre-made things as possible at the beginning. And right now we are lucky because there's so many tools and options we have. Even like most of the people, we need to do a website, and then maybe not, just try with a Telegram group.
Yeah, very lean.
Yeah, and if it works with a Telegram group, then maybe do an app for Telegram, and then so keeping as simple as possible, using everything that already exists at the beginning, for me makes a lot of sense. Simplicity. Once again, like I think one of the questions that we had, like, what one of the things that you would take with you everywhere if you want to start minimalism.
Yeah.
Being able to, because like, once again, like simplifying, it's always harder than just over explaining, over engineering. That's what people with no experience do. Because that's the easy thing to do. Building something, it's easy. Building something really that focuses on something and do it, that's really hard because you need to know what you want to build.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's generally a very small piece of an industry, like a piece of an industry. Yeah. We always
rely on every platform or everything until you get there.
Yeah. It's like a KISS principle. I've not heard it like very recent lately, but when we did engineering, or we still do engineering, it's always like KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Like that's where you go with it. It's like if you can keep it simple, you're probably doing something wrong, or you're in such a complex industry that simplicity doesn't exist. But that doesn't happen very often. Definitely not in where we are, right? So
the chopping process. chopping process, chop things like whenever you have your ideas, for everything you add, at least take out 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a while ago, we had a client that wanted to build a bridge. I forgot, I think it was Solana, Ethereum, or it was something. No, it was not. That was something pretty exotic. And we were looking at layer 0 to use, and or Fireflies from Hyperledger, and they both fulfilled about 80% of the requirements. But the other 20% needed to be custom, but we couldn't build on top of what currently Fireflies and layer 0 expect. And it was basically, we went back to them with like, look, this is what the cost is going to be if it's custom development, and it's a lot because it's a bridge and it sucks and security, and or we're going to go with this, which is about 80% of your requirements, and it's up to you. And in the end, through different business circumstances, they decided not to build it at all. But they said like, well, we're thinking about the 80% solution. I said, well, if I can give you an advice, do it. Like, if that custom development is needed, let's say in a year, you'll probably made so many fees and so much money off that bridge, you can build that custom piece. But don't build something that's incredibly expensive, and you don't if you don't have enough users to bring that money back. And luckily they understood that, but that's not often the case, right? Like, it's very often like, yeah, but we're gonna build a custom bridge. I'm like, oh, please don't.
Entrepreneurs, they get really in love with their ideas.
Yeah.
That happens. Yeah, it happened to me many times, by the way. But
that's a theme that I've kind of gathered quite a bit, I think, from our conversation today. Is you try not to get emotional when it comes to your code, the software. Don't get emotionally attached to the blockchain, to the language. Is that something that fits with your ethos?
Yeah, completely. It's just code at the end of the day. Don't take yourselves too seriously at the end of the day. Yeah. Whatever you do, probably it's wrong, so you're gonna do it from scratch in a couple of months. So don't do it because it's fine. You're gonna change it anyway. Don't get attached to it.
So most developers, CEOs, entrepreneurs, just people in business, they're fanboys of something. Yeah, I feel like you're one of those people that watches football but doesn't really have a football team, just loves football. Do you know what I mean? It's like being a developer.
Not even that. I think football is boring because like I like doing sports, but then watching sports, I think it's so boring that I never do that.
An example, like my dad doesn't support anyone, but he watches football out all night. Like, you're the sort of a developer that's like, I don't care which blockchain, I don't care which code, whichever one's the right one. Whereas so many other people, like, no, I'm a JavaScript developer. No, I'm an Ethereum developer. No, I'm a Bitcoin developer. You just seem kind of technology and business agnostic.
Because probably it's rock, so I'm fine with that. And but completely, like, I love Ethereum. It's fine. I love Bitcoin. I've been using that Bitcoin and coding with Bitcoin script from the beginning. So, but it's just technology. At the end of the day, that's not the important thing. So you
don't let your passion interfere with the business.
Yeah, somebody told me once, like, innovation is when you build something nobody did before and somebody buys it or pays for it. If nobody pays for it, it's just a piece of shit. It can be technology can be as good as whatever technology you're using. It doesn't matter. So using the best tool at the moment makes a lot of sense. And building, it's not about knowing technology. You know how to build things in a way that they scale or that you can build on top of that. And there's so many things that you can think about that. Even like when you build technology, you even think on a potential M&A that somebody buys you and then they have to do the due diligence for your software. So you already have that in mind because, like, they're going to come, but then I have all of the setup. It's there. So it's fine. And once again, it's not about if it's JavaScript or Ethereum or... True. I think nobody cares, honestly. Only tech guys, we care about that, but when you just like go out of our world.
Do you ever think about grants when you're choosing technology? One thing we haven't thought about. You say no one cares. That's what really triggered a thought, and then I'd set to process it for a minute. Some people care in terms of there may be specific funding if you choose a specific technology.
Depends on your funding strategy, I guess. In my case, I don't care too much because I think that's like short term. Choosing just the technology because they give you a grant, of course, like, can help sometimes. but it doesn't say anything about the community they have.
Yeah.
So, and even sometimes, like I was once working for the grant, and I just started playing with the technology, and it was so bad. But it's like, I don't want. It's gotta take me. It's gotta be crazy. No, I don't want that grant. So,
And I got something to add there, Liam, because we've been looking at grant programs and work with grant programs on and off. It's sometimes also the rules around the grant program that don't make any sense. I'm not gonna, name any names here, but that there are grant programs out there that are so restrictive. So let's say you're a greenfield company, just have at least your POC out, and they're like, no, but you can't pay a lawyer with your grant. It's like, yeah, but you want me on your chain, right? I need to have an LLC open. Yeah, but you can't do it right now. So there's a lot of restrictions around grants as well. Because people really want to make sure that you use their technology, but they don't look at the larger perspective. It's like, well, what else needs to be done? The grant programs are a very short-term thing, but also very fickle, in my opinion. I like the theory and the idea behind it. I just don't think it's being executed for the benefit of the founder. It's being executed for the benefit of an ecosystem, in my opinion.
and then I think like if grants were given more like on the growth or go to market, more on the marketing side, you build something on our technology, like we have this blockchain, you build something on the blockchain, it works, people is using that, and now we want to tell everybody about this. So we want to spend some money on marketing to make sure that we have hackathons or we have like whatever. Then probably makes sense because they already part of the community. So, but then just like paying people to use your technology, it can work sometimes. Maybe it depends a lot, but
depends if your technology is easy to use and fast to scale. Like I think that's
exactly. But the same with hackathons. I've been a lot of people that they just go to the hackathon to build something, make the prize, and then they will never,
Yeah.
I suppose they also then have, like, you talk about community, you've got things like Gitcoin grants and quadratic funding, which is kind of all about exactly that, right? Democratizing building and democratizing grant money. I think all those kind of open source funding methods are really fascinating.
They are. But then Gitcoin, I think like they have a really amazing approach to help community. So it's, I think they have the right approach to grants, but they are not like trying to build up a technology and get users for that technology. So they're just like trying to get interesting projects on Web3.
Yeah. So I was kind of building on to your idea is that there's away from the sort of specific grants and then into, say, one of my favorite grant projects isn't actually tied to anything. It's kind of, it's tied to the community, which is exactly what you're saying is the most important. So anyone who's watching very closely will realize that Alex has actually transported. His laptop died ever so slightly, so he's come back on. And we're going to use that transportation metaphor to segue seamlessly into our next section, which is where, imagine, Alex, you have been transported back to the beginning of your career without any of the knowledge or experience or personal items or anything that you currently have, but you're starting up again. You're on so it's the Startup Desert Island Essentials is this section. What 5 things would you give yourself? You can deliver them to yourselves now in the future, so you know you'll get them in a little capsule when you arrive. And it can be anything, though. It can be even sort of esoteric things. So it can be books, courses, even just concepts, ideas. What would they be? What would you give your younger self?
I think mostly if I could send me concepts, even like if I could talk with me in the past, I would send like these concepts. But first, like minimalism, being able to, once again, like being big things, it's really easy compared to build really compact, small, usable things. So minimalism is one. And second, you mentioned that. I think it's quite important. It's not personal. Forget about that. And because like life of an entrepreneur, it's a fucking roller coaster. It's crazy. So once you are up, then down, and when you're down, really down, then when you're up, really up. And if you learn how to manipulate that curve in a way that it's instead of being like that, it's like that, and you learn to handle that.
Just to jump in, one of the things that I didn't mention earlier, I thought was fascinating, and it's not just about people think about the journey as being like that, and like some people might have that concept. Well, you're talking about being an entrepreneur and funding. that your wealth and your funding as an entrepreneur will be like a chart as well. You can lose money and still make money over the long term. So people might look at the Bitcoin chart and go, oh, I'm not going to sell the dip. But there might be an entrepreneur that's just lost £100,000 and thinking, I'm going to give up now. Like, you kind of really put that into perspective. I thought it was fascinating. It's just a dip. Buy the dip. Build something new.
Yeah.
And use that experience. At the end of the day, like every failure got you there. And for every failure, like, I think like one of the most important thing that nobody's speaking about usually is about connection. It's like, oh no, I can do it on my own from scratch, from zero. Say like, if I can bring something to my bag, it's like people I know, because my connections make everything really faster. Because of course, like I have 48, I've been building for a long time, so I know a lot of VCs, and then I can call these VCs and they ask, what are you building, Alex? I'm building this. We love that. We know you, we trust you. So the network of connections, it's so important.
I always hate this thing that people say is like your net worth is your network is your net worth, but it's very true. It's just like knowing the right people to
even like not funding, but your team, like your CTO, whatever. Like if you know people, it's easier.
We've got 3 there. We need 2 more.
Okay, so basically, and there's one of the concepts that it was so important for me that even I got it tattooed to my arm. Probably, I don't know if you see that so far.
Punkpreneur.
Punkpreneur.
Oh, nice.
What's a punkpreneur then?
But basically, it's a concept. It's an idea. I even have t-shirts for that, by the way.
I want one.
A little bit on the old punk idea of like fact society. I mean, like we need to destroy society at some point. I think it's not perfect, far from perfect. We need to improve it. So when I mean destroy it, it's like we can build it from scratch again. Forget about everything you know. You're not that good. It's fine. Have fun. Have fun in the process, even like when you're up and down. Be like this crazy punk that just do things because it's fun. Sometimes we just forget that thing. Like, okay, we just have one life. Once again, like fuck society, have fun, and I think that's probably one of the most important for me.
It reminds me of one of my favorite philosophers is Albert Camus, and that's very much a lot of his philosophy.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about philosophy. I love that one. Anyway, so we have 4. So the 5th, I would just get my laptop and start doing things, and don't plan too much. So just the laptop, so I can start sending messages, calling people, getting my
start doing.
Yeah, going, do it, whatever. Like try, and part of the Punkpreneur is like, yes, listen to your elders, but not that much. Be crazy. So if you do as like every time you want to do anything, a lot of people will tell you not to do that. It's impossible. Nobody has done that before. Nobody. Yeah. So once again, like be punk, do it anyway. And I think it's not for the money. If you just do it for the money, just get a job.
Yeah. Money should never be the goal.
No, if it's for the money, get a job, do savings, invest in like real estate or whatever. So there's a lot of ways that, in a safe, secure, and not driving you crazy way, you can get money. This is not the best way to get rich. Forget about that.
A hard knock life.
That's why I say probably if I'm on an island and I'm like doing well, probably I would stay there.
Fair.
Why do like I'm in the paradise, so I have food, I have everything. It's not fun. I have my contacts. I mean, I have my family with me, so that's fun.
Fantastic. Well, I think there was 5 of the more unique answers other than the laptop. I really enjoyed those, and I think the listeners will as well. So we're at the point of the show now where, Alex, you've got a dedicated space here to plug yourself, your business, your products, where else you'd like to promote. Feel free, the floor is yours. Tell us about where you'd like people to go from here.
So, well, cool. Long story short, like a lot of years ago, like 6 years, 7 years ago, I started an association about blockchain. And we were working we were dealing with standards. Learned a lot about the standardization process. Working with ISO, ITU, this kind of big European Commission, this kind of big organizations. And I started thinking that it would be cool if standards were open source. So instead of experts, as I say before, fuck experts. If experts, instead of experts telling us how to build things, creating standards, that really complex, nobody cares. We should have a way of creating simple things. Once again, going back to the minimalism, creating simple things, simple schemas that we could use to organize all of our data. So basically, one of the things I built was context protocol. At the beginning was a framework to coordinate standards as public goods. So imagine a GitHub for schemas that instead of creating standards, I don't want to create standards. Anybody can create schemas, and by adoption, these schemas, they become standards. Okay. That was the beginning, but just to do that, I wanted I needed storage on Web3. I was using Autoweave. So I was doing a lot of crazy stuff. And of course, I can give a name. So I started a name service for that. So you could have names for your standards. And it was cool. And at some point, everything that I was building, it was going back in a direction that was not just familiar, but something that I've been thinking on for the last 20 years, that it's an old idea, it's the semantic web. This idea of separating data from presentation from HTML, and then put on a web with the Web3 twist. Once again, back that you have full control on your data. That data is organized with documents under your domain, something really simple. And that's what we do. So basically, we're working on a lot of different use cases. And most of the use cases are Web 2, not even Web 3. So imagine that by having this technology where every winemaker in the world, they can have their own domain with the name of the wine. And then they can organize all of the documents, data under that domain. So all of the different kind of wines, years, sellers, everything, all of the information. And they have full control on that. So the idea is that if they change something there, automatically, all of the resellers, websites, e-commerce, or whatever, they can take the information from there because it follows this schema, this is standard. So everybody knows how to read that information. And that would result in a world where basically any company, individual, anybody, instead of having all of their data under whatever platform, like LinkedIn, Google, whatever, that basically you have all of your data, it's not yours. They can get back control on their data. It's mine, or my company. And then instead of going to thousands of platforms to update everything, I just need to update my data, have full control. My key is my data. That's the thing. And then having automatic propagation of that data. So I have full control. And then of course, when we were building there, all of the crazy thing with AI came, and we found out that was the perfect solution. So imagine a way that we can train AI as a community with all of the security. So that's what we're building. It's called Context Protocol. You can look for it on internet. Just need to join there, get a domain, and then if you want to have a personalized domain, talk to me. We can get personalized domains and then just build. I want people building stuff on top of that. That's the only thing. Probably we're gonna do grants then.
I mean, you're completely right though as well. Because standards are something that is a huge problem. I completely agree with that part. But universal open standards then is kind of create. If we were able to create the internet, recreate it with all of that, AI would be so much easier to build and so much easier to use and decide if you want to give an AI access to train, what the AI robots file, which parts it can look at and which it can't, training your data and making so that one of the things that I struggle the most with LLMs is when I'm trying to get it to compare two different types of data that are very, very different. It can really screw it up because a lot of these AIs, and they are becoming more so, are going to become agents where they actually want to run code. And if it's not properly formatted and unified, it's got to convert it all first, and it takes forever. If you give an LLM two pieces of data that are formatted in the same standards, then you see how powerful it really is.
Exactly. Or even if they have different standards, because I have the definition of both, and it's really
yeah. As long as it knows the standard, yeah, you're right.
And at the beginning, I was advisor to a couple of games, and when you speak about the standards, everybody thinks about big standards, I guess, data standards, payments, identity, it's kind of big standards. And at the moment, I was thinking about the stupid standard, a cap, and it's so simple because if I have an NFT, that's a cap for the game, but that cap hasn't standard. something that everybody recognizes, like even AI, they know, oh, this is standard for a cap. Then I can use that cap not just in my game. I can use it everywhere.
Yeah.
I can interoperate that cap, that NFT with everything. So having real interoperability in data just by having schemas and definitions. And then once again, like you can integrate with AI a lot of things, but that was like how we started, like how we do the semantic meaning of NFTs. But then the cool thing, because we want to be this GitHub in top of Web3, we have version control. And that became okay, now we can do dynamic NFTs, but this NFT that's evolving, level 2, level 3 of the NFT, all of the metadata is on chain. So I can have like traceability and see back, okay, how my NFT was originally, I never lose my NFT. Have like the full traceability and accountability on that NFT. So that's the kind of things we're working on right now. And that's one of the problems, because there's so many things we can do with this idea, with this protocol. And I can't wait to see what people build on top of that. I have a lot of ideas, and probably the one that will be bigger than anything, it's not even going to be mine. It's going to be some crazy guy with a new ideas. Like, I can do this, and why not do it? Sure.
Awesome.
So Alex, what's the website for context? Where can people find this awesome?
CTX.xyz. It's www.ctx.xyz. We already have an SDK. So at the beginning, we had the 2 SDKs. One is like the full Web3 experience. So you can handle your keys, you can like pay for the gas on the blockchain, everything. And then we have another one that basically you just have an API key, and then we do a account abstraction. We do we sponsor gas, and we do everything so you don't have to. So, and everybody of course is using the API key.
Yeah, easy. It's always like, easy, right? Like just what we talked about.
Yeah, and it has like, okay, read and write.
Yeah, exactly. Man, this was awesome. Like I really enjoyed this hour and a half. I think it was great. I'm 100% sure our listeners and viewers are gonna catch some nuggets out of it, and hopefully, maybe even some people will look at this and say like, shit, I've been thinking about this all wrong. And I hope that is the case, because I think we need more people on the bandwagon with Alex and with ourselves, where we care a little bit less about technology and we care a little bit more about the business and how the business solves the problem. Technology just needs to work, bring it under the hood. Alex, thank you so much for being here today with us. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Alex.
And this was our episode for WT3 with Alex Puig today. Please like and subscribe and repost our content. We love to see our stuff coming back to the World Wide Web, because we believe that what we bring here with our first season is very educational and will add a lot of value to whatever founder needs in order to survive and thrive. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. See you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.